My name is Colin Gunnell. Further to the autumn 2017 budget, we feel an important area for all our clients to be aware of is the announcement around IR35, as it could potentially impact them. The government has set out new rules which were introduced to the public sector in April 2017, and they have now announced a consultation on applying these rules to the private sector. History has taught us that when government announces a tax consultation, it's more a matter of when, not if. The government is expected to release the findings of its consultation at some point in 2018. That could be in time for the autumn budget or even as soon as the spring statement. As these new rules have already been launched in the public sector, the smart money is on them being implemented in the private sector at some point during 2018 or 2019. Understanding IR35, how it works, and what makes a contract caught or not caught by it has always been an important factor for contractors, freelancers and small businesses to understand. In this video, we're going to look at the IR35 legislation itself and also advise on what you may want to consider doing moving forwards. IR35 is a really big subject, but I hope to answer all of the main points within this video. If, however, you want to go straight to a specific topic, we have broken the video into bite-sized chunks that you can access using the menu below. I hope you find the video useful. IR35, referred to by government as the intermediaries legislation, is essentially a set of rules HMRC applies to single-person limited companies, sometimes referred to as a personal service company or a PSC. These rules intend to identify workers who would be classified as employees if it were not for the fact they were operating through a limited company. This is often referred to as disguised employment. In HMRC's eyes, so-called disguised employees choose to operate through a personal service company purely to pay less tax than they should. However, in reality, we all know that our clients choose to work through limited companies for a variety of reasons. Think of IR35 as an employment test for tax purposes. If you're caught by IR35, you should be taxed the same way as other PAYE employees. If you're not caught by IR35, you can operate normal business taxation. It's important to clarify that IR35 only applies to workers operating through limited companies or partnerships. It does not apply to umbrella company workers, direct employees on PAYE payrolls, or self-employed sole traders. Absolutely, 100%. As you know, IR35 has always been important as it has determined how you take income from your company and what taxes you and your company pay. It looks increasingly likely that the IR35 rules as they're applied in the public sector will apply in the private sector at some point in the future. This means every assignment or contract taken by a personal service company will have an IR35 status determined at its source, and it will control what taxes are applied. IR35 will be relevant for all parties within the contractual chain in one way or another, and will be an important factor for a personal service company director, recruitment agency, or end client to consider. How IR35 is determined is probably the biggest question we will address in this video. The tests which are used to determine IR35 status are complex and have evolved over years and years of case law. They involve both the contractual terms of an assignment and how that assignment is performed in the real world. This real-world application is called working practices. They include the following three key areas. Mutuality of obligation. Is the client or agency obliged to give you work, and are you obliged to take it, both during and between assignments? Personal service. Are you required to personally carry out the services, or can you send a substitute? In reality, will the client accept a substitute, or do they have the right to reject them? And the final one's control. Are you free to perform the work how you see fit, or is it a master-servant relationship? It's really important to say here that for a contract to be classified as inside IR35, the test must indicate an employment relationship in all three of these areas. Another way to look at it would be if these tests have a positive. For example, there is mutuality of obligation, there is a requirement for personal service, and there is control. If all of these things are positive, then it's very, very likely the contract is caught by IR35. HMRC are seeking to determine if the relationship is one of employment, caught by the legislation, or one of a business-to-business relationship, or not caught by the legislation. To help with this process, HMRC has built and launched an online tool to determine a contract's IR35 status. This tool is currently known as CEST, Check Employment Status for Tax. HMRC have stated that CEST is the only decision-making tool they will stand by. If the result is not IR35 caught, then, providing all the questions answered within the test are correct and the working practices match, they will stand by this decision. The counter to this, however, is that if the questions and working practices state a court decision, then HMRC will state the contract is caught. End of. HMRC have also stated that it's A, not compulsory to use the tool. A client can make a decision without taking the tool into consideration. And B, HMRC have no formal appeal process, so make of that what you will. I'll refrain from offering a personal opinion on HMRC's CEST tool. However, it has come under fire from various parties on its ability and its efficiency. Mutuality of obligation exists when the agency or end client is obliged to offer work to an individual under the terms of a contract, and the individual is obliged to take it. It is seen as an indicator of employment because there is a mutual obligation to work with each other, like in the terms of an employment contract. Take, for example, my employment with Boox. Under my contract, the company is obliged to pay me for a certain number of hours I work, even if we're not busy. And I'm obliged to turn up each day and carry out what tasks are needed. However, if a client is not obliged to provide work and the worker is not obliged to take it, or where only one of the parties has an obligation, it is more than likely that mutuality of obligation will not exist. For example, can the worker be sent home without pay if they're not needed? If they start an assignment, are they obliged to finish it before they get paid? This all centres around whether personal service by the worker is required, or can a substitute be sent to carry out the work? If you consider a situation whereby you hire a small building business to fit a kitchen for you, you're not concerned who the actual person doing the work is, you just want your kitchen fitted. Or you could say, you're just interested in that project being completed, regardless of who does it. The building business owner could start the work, then a few days into the project send somebody else to finish it, as they weren't available. They could be sick or working on a different project. The building business could send anyone who had the relevant ability and skill set to do the work, and you couldn't unreasonably say that you didn't want that particular person to work on the kitchen. The critical point here is that the personal service of the business owner was not required to deliver the work. A really key element here is that the building business was in control of providing and paying the substitute, as well as taking care of the cost involved in the provision of that substitute, including quality checking and insurances, etc. You just pay the building business owner for the kitchen as you originally planned, and the project's completed. It's my professional opinion that personal service, both contractually and within working practices, is one of the most important factors in determining a true IR35 status. The question here is the degree of control the client has over what, how, when, and where a worker completes the work. Are you free to perform the task how you see fit, or is there a strict overriding process that must be followed? In case law, this overriding process is known as the master-servant relationship. An example would be an IT consultant is tasked by a client to design and build a new website. The client is not interested in controlling how the website is built. They typically wouldn't have the skill set to do so anyway. They just want the project finished. The consultant carries out the work in line with the specification from the client and provides a delivery date. In this example, the client is not controlling how the work is performed. But let's take another example, likely to be the other end of the spectrum. A labourer goes onto a construction site, is given a wheelbarrow and is instructed to move a pile of bricks from one place to another. They are clearly being instructed and controlled in the performance of that task. IR35 isn't new legislation. In fact, it's been around since 2000. The reason there's a lot of noise about it now is because of the consultation. And the consultation isn't intending to change the rules around IR35. What's potentially changing, based on the government's consultation, is who is applying the rules. Historically, the individual director of a personal service company carried out the responsibility of determining their IR35 status. By signing off corporation tax returns and a self-assessment, the individual gave a declaration that IR35 had been applied correctly, along with other taxes. Those working in the public sector will know that from April 2017, responsibility for determining IR35 status switched from the individual personal service company director to the client that personal service company director was working for. It is this change of who makes the determination that government are consulting to extend to the private sector. Under the new way IR35 will be applied in the private sector, should a client determine that a contract is caught by IR35, it is the responsibility for the party paying the limited company to make the appropriate deductions of tax and national insurance. This process is officially called deemed payment. HMRC have deemed you an employee for the purposes of tax. This party paying the personal service company is known as the fee payer, and it may be a recruitment agency, an end client, or an intermediary company. It is vital to clarify that should a client determine your contract as IR35 caught, you will receive payment net of tax deduction, and the fee payer will send the relevant tax and national insurance to HMRC on your behalf. Unfortunately, HMRC have no formal appeal process for IR35 challenges. A quick internet search will deliver results of multiple challenges and appeals being launched against both clients and HMRC. However, to my knowledge, none have been upheld. That said, I have heard of clients reassessing the facts of an IR35 determination when finding they're about to lose a whole team due to a blanket decision. A really important fact to confirm is that it's your contract that has an IR35 status, not you as an individual. This means you may be and are likely to be offered both IR35 caught and not caught contracts through your contracting career. Just means that the tax treatment will be different for each. One area of benefit is that due to the legislation being updated in this way, a personal service company director can no longer have any liability for undue tax payments to the revenue, as they're no longer involved in the IR35 decision-making process. If a fee payer deducts incorrect taxes, applies not court rules to a court contract, for example, they are liable for the due tax to HMRC. The revenue will not pursue the personal service company director at all. The flexible workforce has experienced rapid and far-reaching change in recent years, and there is surely more to come. IR35 may be an awkward and unpalatable reality, but it's just that, a reality. Without comprehensive shake-up of the entire UK tax system, I believe IR35 is here to stay. And the extension of the new determination regime to the private sector is likely to just be a matter of time. It is important to consider that the decision on how you work shouldn't just be about tax. It should also encompass flexibility, ease, responsibility, and overall choice over how you want to work. And that's just to name a few of the factors that should be considered. It isn't all doom and gloom, I promise. One of the UK's most envied resources is its flexible talent and labour market. And being a contractor or freelancer still offers a wide breadth of benefits such as freedom, flexibility, and lifestyle balance. And it will continue to be an attractive career choice for years to come. We hope you have found this video useful. If you have any further questions about any of the areas we have covered, please get in touch with the Boox team here in Port Solent.